Today's Kwibuka Podcast marks the death of Queen Rosalie Gicanda, widow of King Mutara III. Elsewhere in Gisagara, thousands of Tutsis had taken refuge in Mugombwa Church, only to be locked in the church by an Italian priest who then handed over the keys to known killers. April 20th, 1994. Massacres perpetrated against the Tutsi in the former Butare, Cyangugu and Gitarama. On April 20th, 1994, the president of the interim government visited Ndora and Shanda communes in Gisagara district to urge Hutus to exterminate the Tutsis. On the same day in Butare town, the prefect Nsabimana, installed by President Sindi Kubgabo the previous night, held a meeting to plan how the genocide was to be carried out in the entire Butare prefecture. It was on April 20th, 1994 that Queen Rosalie Gicanda got murdered. Queen Rosalie Gicanda was killed at the instructions of Captain Ildefonse Nizeyimana at the military training school called École des Sous-Officiers, ISO, in Butare. During the genocide, Nizeyimana joined other soldiers involved in the killings, including Lieutenant Colonel Tutsis and soldiers from Ongoma military barracks commanded by Lieutenant Ildefonse Hategekimana and gendarmerie led by Major Syriac Habyarabatuma, as well as Interahamwe. Captain Nizeyimana instructed the soldiers to kill Queen Rosalie Gicanda at her home near the Ngoma commune office. Those who went there include Lieutenant Bizimana, nicknamed Rugwatsi, Lieutenant Gakwerere, Corporal Alois Mazimhaka, and Dr. Kajiruka. Other victims were identified as Jean Damascene Paris, Alphonse Siidia, Marie Gasibireje, Aurélie Mukaremera, and Calixte Kaigamba. Captain Nizeyimana was convicted of genocide crimes by the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, ICTR, and sentenced to 35 years in prison. Lieutenant Colonel Muvunyi was convicted of genocide crimes and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Tutsi refugees from former Muganza, Chiwayi, and Nyaruhengeri commune and those who lived in Nyange Hill near Kabogobogo River took refuge at Mugombwa Church between April 19th and 20th, 1994 in Gisagara. The head priest Tatiano Pagolalo, an Italian, confined Tutsis inside the church, padlocked all doors, and handed keys to the infamous killer businessman in Mugombwa Center called Byingoma. When Interahamwe and the military arrived at the church, they demolished the church gates using guns, grenades, and burnt the church with fuel. Approximately 26,700 Tutsis were killed at Mugombwa parish. The perpetrators of the killings were Ndayambaje Eli, former burgomestre of Muganza commune, Singirankabo Viateur, a councillor, Rwakaronkano, Byingoma, Bigirimana Pierre, Mukundiye Yohan, the head of Interahamwe in that area, Kabirigi Antoine, Habiyambere Celestin, Mbarushimana Emmanuel, Munyaneza Theobald, and many others. Additionally, Burundian Hutu refugees who lived in the camp, Sagasel, also played a crucial role in Mugombwa Tutsi massacres. A Belgian brother called Constant Julius Goldschacks, also known as Brother Stan, from the charity Brothers called Frères de Charité of the Groupe Scolaire of Butare, supported Burundian refugees who committed the genocide. This brother was a close friend to Burgomestre Ndayambaje and Nyiramasuhuko. He testified at the ICTR in 2008 in their favor. Brother Stan was involved with the killers of Tutsi refugees in Mugombwa Church. In July 1994, Brother Stan left Rwanda for Kigoma, Tanzania, to establish a Rwandan refugee school in which he received his friends from the genocidal government. A report by the United Nations experts released in November 2009, open brackets, S/2009/603, close brackets, identified Brother Stan as one of the religious personnel who continued to support the FDLR in its plans to destabilize Rwanda. Eli Ndayambaje was sentenced to 47 years in prison by the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. Busekanga is near Lake Kivu on a small port from Nganga to Mhombo and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Tutsis were killed while fleeing to Zaire. Others were taken from their homes to be killed at the lake. There was no roadblock at the site, but Interahamwe would shout and go to the area immediately whenever they saw a Tutsi fleeing. The killings began from April 20th, 1994 till the end of May 1994 in Busekanga. The local Interahamwe massacred Tutsis with immense cruelty. They tied their legs and arms and threw them in Kivu. For the others, they cut off their legs, took out their eyes, and threw them in the lake alive to watch how they die. There was a massive pit in which Tutsis were thrown, dead or alive. The pit was excavated near Rutabo Primary School by a teacher named Nsabimana Jacques, who was the CDR president in Ntongwe commune, which he called a toilet pit. Tutsis killed at the school site were from Ntongwe, Mugina, Bugesera communes, and elsewhere. After killing them, they threw them into a pit with others killed at various roadblocks in the surrounding areas. The pit was nicknamed CND, alluding to the parliamentary building where a group of Inkotanyi was living. It meant that they should join their Inkotanyi relatives who resided in the CND in Kigali. They were killed by gendarmes, Interahamwe, and Burundian refugees who were in Nyagahama camp. Among the perpetrators included Burgomestre of Ntongwe commune, Charles Kagabo, the CDR president Nsabimana Jacques, and others. Nyumba parish at Gishamvu, major seminary of Nyakibanda, Gishamvu commune of Busoro sub-prefecture. This commune is the birthplace of Jean Kambanda, the former prime minister of the genocidal government. Tutsi refugees came from Kigembe, Runyinya, Nyakizu, Mubuga, and Gishamvu communes. Between 25,000 and 30,000 Tutsis were shot dead by guns located at the hills opposite Nyakibanda. Kambanda Pascal, who was the burgomaster of Gishamvu commune, led the killers, assisted by Simbarikure Asiel, the sous-prefet of Busoro. Nzavugijo Pierre Celestin, a medical assistant officer at Busoro Health Center. Other members included Kubgimana Laurent, a teacher who later became a sous-prefet during the genocide. Shimimana Alexis, a native of Gisenyi who worked for Minitrap. Yemuremi Vianney, who distributed many axes to groups of killers, and Gatabazi Evariste, a driver at the commune. Kubgimana, nicknamed Chuma, Gishamvu councillor, Nyamwasa Joseph, a police officer, and Ushizimhumu Jean, who was Shori councillor. They also included Namuhungu Martin, a security guard at the post office, Murara Gabriel, a medical doctor in Butare, and members of the Batwa ethnic group from Kibuye Cyashari, led by Tabaru. Barirwanda Mark, who worked at the Bank of Kigali, his young brother Ndayisenga Samuel, and Sechimonyo, who owned a gun and shot many Tutsis, also took part in the killings. Tutsi priests, seminarians, and refugees who had taken refuge at the major seminary of Nyakibanda were killed. Among the perpetrators was Father Taderu Sinjizindekwe, a native of Kibeho, and was a professor at major seminary of Nyakibanda. Many Pentecostal Christians attended the ADPR Shagasha Church. They included many Tutsis who, when the killing started, found it reasonable to seek refuge at the church. Tutsis who had taken refuge at the ADPR were women and children. Men feared that the killers would easily find them there. About 60 Tutsi women and children took refuge at the church from April 11, 1994. Many of them were killed. Their houses burned down. On April 20, 1994, a group of killers who had just slaughtered Tutsis in Nganga arrived with gasoline to burn them alive inside the church. Fortunately, they could not use it because it got dumped on the ground accidentally. They mercilessly killed Tutsi refugees from the church. Thank you for listening to another episode of Kwibuka Podcast. As always, make sure you leave us a review, sharing what you like about the podcast, and share with others who would be interested in listening.